My name is Bertha Jackman, and I've gotten into the habit of actually spelling my last name when I say that, because I've learned over the years I can look you straight in the face and spell my name, and people will still write Jackson. So it's Jackmon. And I don't know if we're related to Hugh Jackman or not, but I'm still trying to find out. I'm going to start off by saying that I am one of the co-chairs of the Path to Freedom Executive Committee. The other co-chair, John Heydrich, is not available today, but if he could, he would certainly be here. And the other thing I'm going to start off with is to say that yesterday I had the pleasure of meeting with the 250 Committee, Delaware County. And it was held at Cheyney University, which is partly in Chester County and partly in Delaware County. So I was proud, very proud, to get up and talk about my connection with the Chester County 250. And it created some interest, and I'm going to be talking to some people about that. My role here today is to talk about some of the organizations that I work with, or some of the groups that I work with, giving examples about some of the projects across Chester County. My whole thing, which I finally realized, is that it's about connections. And when I realized that everything that I'm involved in is all connected, and I believe in connecting anything and everybody, and this is what this whole Chester County 250 is about. I am representing Mount Zion African Methodist Episcopal Church, also called AME, from Devon Tredyffrin Township. I'm the church historian there, and this is one of the ways that I started getting involved in history and preservation. I am also a member of the Tredyffrin Easttown Historical Society, a board member. I am a board member of Pennsylvania Hallowed Grounds. That's an organization in the state of Pennsylvania, and we have two focuses. The first one is any cemetery in the state of Pennsylvania, doesn't matter whether it's black, white, public, private, anywhere there's a United States colored troop from the Civil War buried, that's the cemetery that we're interested in. We try to keep a running list of that. If you can see our website, you'll see that. The other focus is African American cemeteries, period, in the state of Pennsylvania. So cemeteries, anyway, let me stop there. The other organization I'm with is the International Association of Black Professionals in International Affairs. And of course, that's a mouthful, and we call it BPIA, Black Professionals in International Affairs. It may not seem like it has anything to do with Chester County, but it's an international organization. I'm a founding member. This year we're celebrating 35 years. So the whole idea is that everything that I'm involved in is about history in general and Black history in particular, preservation. The four examples that I'm going to talk about, the first one is a church in Tredyffrin Township, the Baptist Church in the Great Valley in Devon in Tredyffrin Township. That church was founded in 1711 by so many Welsh families. The first meeting of the Wilberforce Anti-Slavery Society was held on January 1837. The reason why I bring this particular group up is because I'm in Tredyffrin Township, which is, I think, is considered sort of the northern part of the county. I get the impression that this particular anti-slavery society is not well known. We hear about southern Chester County, everything happening down there, which is great, fine, and wonderful, but there were other people doing other things in the county, and it wasn't just the Quakers. So that's why I bring this up. The last recorded meeting was in 1844. That's the last recorded meeting that we know about. It seems that the members of the Wilberforce Anti-Slavery Society felt that they could be of greater service undercover. So we don't know what happened to them, but if you're talking about Underground Railroad, we're lucky that we have this much documentation. But just a little interesting note about connections. One of the members of that Wilberforce Anti-Slavery Society was the seller of the property that my church is on, Mount Zion AME Church. Turns out that that particular person lived just down the hill across from the founder of my church. So this is what I'm talking about as far as connections. That's the first example. The second example is Shiloh African Methodist Church and Cemetery in Westtown Township. This is a church that lasted from around 1817 to the 1920s. The church building itself is gone. It was bulldozed in the 1960s, somewhere in there, or somewhere in the 1900s. But there's a cemetery. And when you pass by that particular property, you would never know that there was a church or a cemetery because all the headstones were removed. So this particular property, the fact that it goes back to at least 1817, is definitely historic. And the church and the cemetery was part of a thriving African-American community near Westtown School and near several well-known Quakers. It is within so many miles of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Scenic Byway. So I just wanted to bring that up because there's some evidence that there was underground activity going on over there in Westtown Township. The third example is another church. It's called Ebenezer African Methodist Episcopal Church Ruins and Cemetery. It is located in Malvern, Whiteland Township, East Whiteland Township. It was deeded in 1831. The building was built in 1832. The four walls are still standing. The roof is caved in, and it's definitely deteriorating quickly, as I've noticed over the years. But the thing about that particular church and cemetery is that it was part of an African-American community of free people, former slaves, in the Backton Hill, Valley Hills area. They timbered and carted lumber for the lime kilns in Great Valley. They also owned small farms. The interesting thing about this, I mean, it's already interesting, but one of the little pieces of information is last September, East Whiteland Township purchased and dedicated a historical marker for the church and the cemetery. Thank you. And so this is another example of connections, the township, a local government, and a local church. The fourth example that I'm going to talk about is my own church, Mount Zion African Methodist Episcopal Church and Cemetery, located in Devon, Tredyffrin Township. My church was founded in 1849, and the property was bought in 1861. And like I said, it was bought from the person who was a member of the Wilberforce Anti-Slavery Society and his wife. The thing about my church, Mount Zion AME Church, is that it was the site for strategizing against the policy of segregation of elementary school children in 2 townships in 1932 to 1934. Those 2 townships, Tredyffrin and Easttown. Long story short, it was known for the Berwyn school fight 22 years before Brown versus Board of Education. 16 years before the United Nations Human Rights Declaration about all the rights that humans have. Because of that Berwyn school fight, our church and cemetery are listed on the National Register of Historic Places for ethnic heritage, Black and social history significance. In the spring of last year, and of course I could go on and on, but here's another major result of that school fight. Last year in the spring, April 2023, the Tredyffrin Easttown School District officially included the Berwyn school fight in the curriculum at all 3 levels of their schools, elementary schools, middle schools, and the high school. It was an outcome long awaited and very most deserved. I am going to turn this over to the other members of the Executive Committee of Path to Freedom. Thank you.
My job is to stand in very briefly for John Heydrich, who is co-chair of our committee, who has been chair of the Brandywine Valley Byway Commission, and still serves on that commission. To just give you a little background of where the Harriet Tubman Byway came from. The Harriet Tubman Byway is a result of the efforts for the Brandywine Valley Scenic Byway, which recently became the Brandywine Valley National Scenic Byway in Pennsylvania, as it already had been in Delaware. I happen to have been the author of the corridor management plan for the Brandywine Valley Byway, which is frankly why I'm now on this committee and standing in. That byway recognized early in its efforts the importance of the Underground Railroad as an intrinsic historical theme for the Brandywine Valley Scenic Byway. The Byway Commission was established by an intergovernmental agreement between Pocopson, East Bradford, Pennsbury, Chadsford, and Kennett townships. And it encompasses a 25-mile figure-8 route in Pennsylvania. The map is sitting right over here on the easel. You can look at it at your leisure after. The part that's red has now been designated the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway in Pennsylvania, and it extends in a lighter color down to Rodney Square in Wilmington. The Scenic Byway Commission applied to PennDOT for designation of the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad Byway in 2022, the 200th anniversary of Harriet Tubman's birth. The byway application was approved by the Secretary of Transportation, and it is now officially recognized. It is, in Pennsylvania, it is overlain for now only on a 7.6-mile section of the Brandywine Valley Byway, but the story, which Marie will tell you about, extends throughout Chester County. The Brandywine Valley Scenic Byway Commission is now the manager of both the Brandywine and Tubman byways. And I mentioned if you'd like to look at the map later, but I will turn the story over to Marie.
I'm the managing director of the National Travel Center. We are one of the very, very few consulting firms that specialize in heritage rural tourism. and small towns. And I head up a group of 9 very, very competent people. So we wrote the byway application and helped get it negotiated through PennDOT. And then we decided that there needed to be a vehicle to tell what we thought was a really, really, really interesting story that not a lot of people knew. So the Harriet Tubman Byway website went live in February 2024. But it's not what you expect for a website. Now, I cross and bridge between planning. My doctorate's in environmental planning, but I'm a tourism person. I was the professor of destination marketing and management at Temple at the master's level for 10 years, till they didn't have the program anymore. And as we wrote the application, we began to realize that there was way more of a story in Chester County than just the byway, just Harriet Tubman. So we created 10 more stories on the website. And these stories are meant to be impactful. Slavery in Pennsylvania and everywhere else was an abhorrent business. And we didn't shirk away from actually talking about what it was. So when you look on there, you'll see 10 other stories that we tried to reveal the actual story of what we found in 234 different documents. And it became apparent to us that that story could be extended all the way through Chester County. So we applied for a Vision Partnership grant from the Planning Commission, and they gave it to us. And now we only had a June 1st start date, but we had a little head start because we had all those 234 documents that we used to create the stories on the website. So there are 168 locations identified to date where the activity took place in Chester County, and the majority of the activity was just above the Delaware Arc. And we read initially that Kennett Square was the hotbed of Underground Railroad activity. Absolutely right. And so the interpretive trail is delivering a visitor experience exploring the story of the Underground Railroad in the entire of Chester County. There's the location of those 168 sites, and as far as we've gotten between the 1st and now the 7th was to figure out the number of each of the townships that are in each of the townships. But it's really interesting because you'll see here there's 20 and 16, etc. Now there is something called the Northern Route of the Underground Railroad through Chester County, but it's not where you would imagine where it was. It bisects right straight diagonally through and heads for north of Philadelphia. So there's an incredible story that's going to be able to be told with that as we move through the partnership grant in the next, we hope, 3 or 4 months, so that we can tell more of the story as quickly as possible. So phase 1 has focused on the freedom seekers, abolitionists, and the Underground Railroad before the Civil War. And then we hope to go into phase 2, which takes it beyond there with Reconstruction, civil rights, etc. Because it would be so expensive to try to get any interpretation on the ground prior to 2026, we're going to do as we do in these kind of heritage trails, and we work all over the United States. We're going to do a cell phone tour so that can be what guides people. And then the website's going to be enhanced with all of the trail information so that we will be arriving before the 2026 celebration with an entire tourism product that will really, really be of interest to people throughout the United States. And I'm going to turn this over to Mark.
When Marie Forbes put out her 10 stories, which consisted of 75 pages, I thought, well, I'll find out more about the Underground Railroad. But 75 pages, I thought, this will be a good bedtime story. Maybe I'll read one per night. Well, I have to say, and this is honest to God truth, I read all 75 pages in one evening. And then I lay awake pondering what would it have been like to be in the freedom seekers' shoes if they had them as they crossed the line. Well, that question comes straight from Harriet Tubman when she did cross the line, and these are her words. When I had found I had crossed the line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields, and I felt like I was in heaven. That heaven, everybody, is our own Chester County. I'm not done yet. So from the start of our groups, I'm on the Chester County 250 Heritage Centers, Heritage Sites Planning Committee. We realized we were pursuing parallel goals in the path to freedom. We soon consolidated our efforts and we expanded the scope throughout all of Chester County, as you saw from Marie's slides with the mapping. And we incorporated the three-tiered network of gateways, heritage centers, and interpretive sites taken from Chester County's Heritage Tourism Plan, recently adopted by our Chester County Commissioners. Together, we've been working together to tell the unique, comprehensive story of the Underground Railroad and the African American experience. And I'll stress the African American experience, because most information we get and receive is about the white abolitionists and how they helped the blacks from south to the north. But a lot of these stories are directly related to the black freedom seekers and abolition themselves. Our group's been working, our group has been meeting at least once a week, and over that short period of time, we've accumulated an immense portfolio. And I urge you, please go on our website, which is incredible, which Marie has put together. As a requirement of the Vision Partnership Grant that we've assembled, we have put together a steering committee consisting of 15 organizations throughout Chester County, with diversification over all of the county. To name a few, we have Longwood Gardens, where we have the Progressive Meeting House. We have Black Lights Projects in Phoenixville, and the Hayti Historical Society in Coatesville, and of course, Lincoln University. That's just a small sampling of the diverse groups that we have. The partnership with the Harriet Tubman Byway, though, is not the sole action. Working on the Heritage Sites Commission, I've been working personally with all the various themes that are presented today. Some are very well advanced, such as Brandywine and Iron and Steel. Others we're working on slowly as we progress, namely Philadelphia Campaign from the north, and also agriculture, which you heard about earlier. Our small groups today can only do so much, as we know, and the bottom line is always funding. We need to work together with our business leaders, community groups, local government, and our legislators who were here earlier. And they have all helped us greatly in the past, present, and we look for their future support in the future. And creating this whole heritage network directly involves economic benefit. I know Eric Rowe expressed it, and everyone agrees. But what it really means is this: you have the obvious benefits to hotels, restaurants, and retail, but it also trickles down to such things as agriculture, which puts food on the table of the restaurants. And believe it or not, I spoke with Susan Hamley earlier this week, and the accrued benefit of heritage tourism in Chester County is $1.5 billion. That amount is expected to be surpassed this year and also surpass pre-COVID numbers. And we are in no better position to attain these goals with the upcoming 250 celebration and also the recent commitment by Governor Shapiro for Pennsylvania tourism by increasing the tourism budget multifold. So finally, I'll pick up from what Michelle had mentioned earlier when she first addressed the group. These are all legacy projects. And while we will try to attain what we can for the 250 celebration, they will continue to be enlarged and enhanced, and eventually they will become our legacy. Thank you very much.